Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I'm back again reading from the Anatomy of Bibliomania by Holbrook Jackson. Today we are on page 120 with a section titled Studies and Old Age. No labor in the world is like unto study, for no other labor is less dependent upon the rise and fall of bodily condition. And although learning is not quickly got, there are ripe wits and scholarly capacities among men of all physical degrees, whilst for those of advancing years, study is of unsurpassing advantage, both for enjoyment and as a preventative of mental decay. Old men retain their intellects well enough, said Cicero, then on the full tide of his own vigorous age, if only they keep their minds active and fully employed. And Dr. Johnson holds the same opinion. There must be a diseased mind, he said, where there is a failure of memory at 70. Cato, so Cicero tells us, was a tireless student in old age. When past 60, he composed the 7th book of his Origins, collected and revised his speeches, wrote a treatise on augural, pontifical, and civil law, and studied Greek to keep his memory in working order. He held that such studies were the training grounds of the mind and prophylactics against consciousness of old age. Isaac Disraeli had several instances of the pursuit of studies into advanced age. How Socrates learnt to play on musical instruments when an old man. Cato thought proper to learn Greek and Plutarch Latin when the one had reached his 80th year and the other was approaching it. Theophrastus began his characters at 90. Isaac Walton wrote his Life of Bishop Sanderson at 85. The great Arnauld was studying rigorously at 82. Ronsard applied himself late to books, and Boccaccio was 35 before he commenced his studies in polite literature. Sir Henry Spelman began to cultivate the sciences at 50. Colbert returned to his Latin and law studies at 60. Tellier, Chancellor of France, learned logic in order to dispute with his grandchildren. Dr. Johnson applied himself to the Dutch language a few years before his death. Ogilby, the translator of Homer and Virgil, knew little Latin or Greek till he was past 50. Franklin did not begin his philosophical pursuits until he was nearly the same age. And I have heard it said that Queen Victoria took up Hindustani when past 70. Michelangelo was so proud of his capacity for study in extreme old age that he is said to have invented the device representing an old man in a go-kart bearing an hourglass and the inscription Ancora Impero. I'm still learning. Lodovico Mondelesco, at the extraordinary age of 115, wrote the memoirs of his times, and La Casa bragged in a letter to a friend that he would go on making sonnets 25 or 30 years after his death. And we've got a line, I don't think that's Latin, I think that might be, it could be Italian, but we have a line in a different language with no footnote, so we will continue on assuming that that line is the translation of what we have just read, that he would go on making sonnets 25 or 30 years after his death. As this may be no more than a fantastic boast, I shall resolve this chapter with Adam Smith, who contends that of all the amusements of old age, the most grateful and soothing is a renewed acquaintance with the favorite studies of youth. And as he said it, Sophocles and Euripides lay open before him for proof. How many such encomiums I might add out of the histories of scholars and learned men is so well known for all experienced readers that I need not examine farther particulars. For there are few who will dispute that the intellect and the soul require support as well as the body. For they are like lamps, unless you feed them with oil, they too go out from old age. Quoting there from Cicero. And that is the end of that section, just a short little one there. I turn the page, and on page 122, there's a new section titled A Digression of Capacious Memories. So we will leave that for the next video. And it looks like that one's going to be fairly short as well, just about 2 pages there. But we'll stop this at about 5 minutes today.